LiQing reminds Prince Lu Olan that they are at Jingguo Palace, therefore there are etiquette and rules to uphold. He tells Prince Lu Olan to act respectfully. Prince Lu Olan is taken aback by his scathing remark. LiQing turns his back to Prince Lu Olan, intent on keeping his distance from the barbarian prince. Prince Lu Olan, undeterred, calls out to him that he shall be staying in Jingguo's capital for 6 months, and Prince Lu Olan will look forward to seeing him around. Prince Lu Olan introduces himself by his Chinese name, Pei Xing Su, and asks LiQing to not address him so formally when they meet again. LiQing leaves the hospital grounds baffled by this interaction. Pei Xing Su watches LiQing leave. He stands on the same spot, seemingly entranced. He finally snaps out of his trance and hits himself with the books he'd been reading. He came to Jingguo, 1,000 miles from Lu Olan, to further his knowledge. There are a lot riding on the success of his education and responsibilities waiting for him when he gets back home. But here he is, infatuated by some beautiful man who makes him lose his senses. Pei Xing Su can't help but wonder what it is about the beautiful man that makes him so entranced. It's such a shame that he didn't get his name. Looks like QiYu needs to watch out for a new rival. With how bad QiYu has been, I'm already rooting for this guy. Carrying the box of sweet-scented osmanthus cake, LiQing returns home to Qili Mansion with a heavy heart. LiQing makes up his mind that he shall find a good time to tell QiYu about his ailment. If he's about to die, he might as well tell him, as he does not know when they will have a good relationship again. With this thought in mind, LiQing's lips curves up to a hopeful smile. LiQing's musings are interrupted by a baritone voice. LiQing is surprised to see QiYu sitting near their room's entrance, seemingly waiting for him. LiQing asks him what he's doing at home at this hour. QiYu takes offense at the question, challenging why LiQing would ask why he's home when he owns the place. LiQing explains that he expects QiYu to be back by dinner time, so seeing him at this time of day is surprising. Making conversation, he asks QiYu if the emperor delegated less work for him that day. He wonders if QiYu did not ask his assistant to review them for him. Triggered at the questions, QiYu sits up straighter, asking LiQing what right he has to ask him such questions. He's your husband. He has the right to ask these questions. LiQing tries to defuse the situation by telling QiYu that he is merely asking. He decides to change the subject because government affairs are boring and no one can blame QiYu for wanting to stay away from work talks. QiYu leans forward, asking LiQing where he went that he was out for half a day. Now, you're the one who's interrogating. Why can't LiQing ask you questions, but you can? Seeing QiYu's sour mood, LiQing decides to not tell QiYu about his illness. QiYu looks at him sharply, quietly observing him. Combined with his illness and being under QiYu's interrogating gaze, LiQing can feel sweat running down the side of his face. He sadly thinks to himself that QiYu does not care for his well-being. There is no reason for QiYu to know. LiQing tells QiYu that it's such a nice day that he took a stroll outside to enjoy the views of Beijing. He lost track of time and came home later than usual. Finding it unusual that QiYu is interested in his activities, he asks why he's asking such questions. QiYu challenges the truthfulness of LiQing's answer. He asks what's in the wooden box and where he got it. LiQing explains that inside are osmanthus cakes purchased from Lian Xiang Luo. It is a treat that QiYu has tasted before. LiQing wonders if QiYu would be nostalgic at the sight of these osmanthus cakes, and offers some to QiYu. He brings a box of osmanthus cakes to QiYu, explaining that the smell of the treat is so strong, and hands over a piece of the treat to QiYu. QiYu knocks the osmanthus cake off LiQing's hand. Grabbing LiQing's wrist, he menacingly tells him that he will only give him one more chance to tell the truth. What is he getting at? QiYu asks him if he bought the osmanthus cakes himself. LiQing avoids QiYu's eyes as he stammers his reply. He admits that he did not get the cakes from the shop. QiYu vindictively calls him a liar and lets go of LiQing's wrist, making him fall to the floor. He accuses LiQing for being restless, implying that LiQing is cheating on him. LiQing realizes that someone must have tattled to QiYu. The first person that comes to mind is Pei Xing Su, who must have come to QiYu. When LiQing refused his advances, LiQing holds the hand that was bleeding that day. He tells QiYu that he has not been feeling well, and that he spent the morning at Tai Hospital and met up with Qimao. QiYu clenched his fist. He got word that LiQing had a secret rendezvous with Qimao. At first, he is unable to believe it and did not expect that LiQing would readily admit to the affair. Hold up. He only admitted to going to the hospital, not having an affair. Calm down. The newlyweds are at a standstill. QiYu asks what kind of disease would take that long to treat. He can't believe that LiQing would not mind his station as crown prince and entangle himself with another man. LiQing brings the wounded hand closer to his chest, as if protecting himself subconsciously. QiYu asks why you wouldn't make use of the doctors at Qilin Mansion. It's not as if Qi Mao is known for being the best. Finally, getting straight to the point, he asks LiQing if he went to see Qi Mao to make himself feel better. LiQing finally understood where QiYu is coming from. He incredulously asks QiYu how he could think that he and Qi Mao are having an affair. QiYu angrily snaps back that if there is nothing to hide, then LiQing wouldn't lie about visiting the hospital. LiQing asks why QiYu would throw wild accusations at him when they are already married. QiYu points at the fallen auspicious cake and correctly assumes that the treats are from Qi Mao, clearly trying to gain QiYu's affections. Furthermore, QiYu has been gone for several years, which is enough time for LiQing and Qi Mao to turn their relationship from enemies to lovers. They must have been lovers for so long. Such an accusation makes LiQing shiver. QiYu tells him that if he likes Qi Mao so much, then LiQing should have married him instead. LiQing hugs his wounded hand closer, chanting a proverb to assure himself. If one is doing right, then one must not worry about unfair comments. His body shakes at the injustice, his stress level through the roof. This waste of space is making him more sick, instead of expressing sympathy for LiQing. QiYu admonishes him for acting like a kicked dog. He notes that LiQing never smiled when they were together, but he came home smiling after seeing Qi Mao. Is someone acting jealous? LiQing can't believe it. He went to the hospital finding out that he has a terminal illness, and he comes home and is accused of happily seeing his lover. LiQing can't help but want to laugh. If only it were true. Qi Mao would probably be a far better lover than this spoiled prince. QiYu observes LiQing's movements, but his jealousy and rage is far greater than any compassion that he could muster. He can't believe how audacious LiQing is by bringing home the auspicious cake he received as a gift from his lover. QiYu picks up the plate of auspicious cake and drops it to the ground. LiQing tells him to stop, but his body is too weak. Bile crawls up his throat that he started hurling at the privacy screens. Unaware of LiQing's illness, QiYu threatens LiQing to not meet up with Qi Mao again or with anyone else. His threats halted at seeing LiQing struggle with red fluid on his lips. Alarmed, he turns to LiQing, finally showing concern. Now that you know that he's sick, do something. You're just making it worse. QiYu grabs LiQing by the arms, thinking that LiQing, while sickly, has not displayed such symptoms before. LiQing tells him to not mind him. QiYu tells LiQing that he should call someone to clean the place up. LiQing thanks him for caring and pushes him off. The newlyweds are at a standstill. QiYu asks what kind of disease would take that long to treat. Taking a cloth and making use of the basin readily available in the room, LiQing carefully cleans himself. When he lifts his head, he is surprised that QiYu stayed in the room with him. QiYu's eyes are glued to a spot on the privacy screen. LiQing follows his gaze and sees the crimson stain at the bottom of the screen. He wonders if QiYu is upset that the privacy screen was ruined. LiQing apologizes for dirtying QiYu's belongings and offers to clean it himself. Should the cleaning not work, he offers to pay for it, as it is a rare art by Tian Gongfang. QiYu compassionately tells him not to worry about it, so you can at least act civilly. Where's that compassion a while ago? QiYu finally takes the time to observe LiQing's physique. He wonders, when did LiQing become so frail? When they first met, LiQing's body did not seem so sickly. He turns his eyes away from LiQing and asks if he wants to have a doctor to give him a checkup. QiYu notes that LiQing offered to replace the screen as if the contents of Qilin Mansion are not his. He also went out of his way to get a doctor outside of Qilin Mansion to treat him. He realizes that LiQing does not see Qilin Mansion as his own home. It is obvious that QiYu wanted him gone. So why won't LiQing leave? QiYu broods unhappily. LiQing waves off QiYu's suggestion of having a doctor attend to him, as he already received his prescriptions from Qi Mao. He promised to take the medicine to get better. He speaks as if his illness is an inconvenience for QiYu. Poor LiQing. QiYu demands that LiQing does not see Qi Mao again, brushing off LiQing's needs. LiQing attempted to protest as unbeknownst to QiYu. LiQing desperately needs the medicine. QiYu sternly told him not to come up with any more excuses. He deems his order non-negotiable, as his pride won't be able to take the embarrassment of his spouse cheating on him. Why do cheaters love to project? He threatens LiQing that it will be best if he never hears about LiQing fooling around with another man. He grabs LiQing by the waist as he doles out his threats, leaning in intimately. LiQing turns his head away from him as he promised that he'll do as QiYu asks. On LiQing's slender neck is a mole that QiYu finds alluring. He can't help but be drawn towards his new spouse. It's probably the newness of their relationship and the excitement of having a new compliant toy to play with. LiQing's innocence, his compliance, his elegant movements, and the virginal ways he looks at him are things that QiYu finds interesting and seductive. He leans in further to catch a whiff of LiQing's smell. In spite of the bitterness of their union, QiYu feels a connection, a spark, if he dares to call it, between him and LiQing. LiQing pushes him off, not wanting to be hurt again. A jealous feeling snakes through QiYu's heart. He asks LiQing why he would deny him. He accuses that LiQing's meeting with Qimao made him repulsed by QiYu's touch. LiQing tried to deny his accusations, unable to look at him. He asks QiYu to go easy on him while he recovers. But QiYu does not want to wait. He holds LiQing tightly as he continues his advances while LiQing tries to struggle against him, begging him to take it easy. Having trained in martial arts, QiYu is far stronger than LiQing. The crown princess's struggle is futile as QiYu successfully captures his lips. When their lips parted, LiQing looks at him with a mix of surprise and fear. QiYu demands that if LiQing is not really having an affair with Qimao as he says, then he must prove it by fulfilling his duties as QiYu's crown princess. Knowing the pain that he would endure, LiQing's face paled. QiYu lifts him up in his strong arms and takes him to their bedroom. He placed LiQing down on the bed. Noticing that LiQing had lost some weight, he is far too light for a grown man. LiQing counters that there is nothing wrong with his weight and that it should be considered good. QiYu remarks that LiQing is as light as a leaf that he may get blown away by the wind. Feeling melancholic, LiQing cryptically asks if QiYu would feel sad if LiQing suddenly disappears. Annoyed by LiQing's childish question, QiYu straight up tells him that he won't be sad at all. He pushes LiQing on the bed and climbs up on top of him. Hurt by QiYu's lack of care, LiQing covers his eyes to hide his tears as he lays on the bed and helplessly gives QiYu what he wanted. LiQing can only hope that QiYu will never forget him. When morning came, LiQing washed up after the arduous time he spent with QiYu and noticed that his symptoms had gotten worse. Xiao Di approaches him with a bowl of medicine and offers them to LiQing. The medicine is from Qimao and Xiao Di brewed it herself, so that no one else would know that LiQing is ill. She worries that LiQing's complexion is far too pale and his weight lighter. She offers to take on LiQing's task of dressing QiYu in the mornings. LiQing gladly accepted the medicine and told Xiao Di that he is all right. He quickly drank the medicine, complaining that it has a metallic and fishy taste. Unable to keep the medicine down, he hurls in front of Xiao Di, almost vomiting the medicine. As he wipes his mouth, cold sweat breaks out from the side of his face and neck. He describes the medicine as fishy and metallic. QiYu comes out of their bedroom complaining at the smell of medicine and vomit at this hour. His mood sours at the sight of LiQing and insensitively asks how long LiQing would be sick for. I don't think it's up to anyone how long they will be sick. LiQing apologized and promised that he will soon recuperate. LiQing decides to change the topic. Like a dutiful wife, he offers to help QiYu get dressed. QiYu observes LiQing as he helps to get him ready for court. He suddenly had the urge to lift up LiQing's face, making him look up at him. LiQing's face morphs to a look of surprise at his gesture. He tells LiQing that he should eat more protein to get better as good food can accomplish more than any medicine and treatment can. Are you a medical professional? I demand to see your license. He blames LiQing for being picky with his food and sees this as the reason why LiQing is sickly. LiQing realized that QiYu remembers that he dislikes meat. Instead of answering him, QiYu turns his back to LiQing and leaves. LiQing calls out to wait for him so that he can escort QiYu, to which the prince declines and tells LiQing that he will go to court alone. LiQing watches him leave, wondering if QiYu decides to go to court on his own, so that LiQing can rest. His heart soared at the thought of QiYu caring for him. Unfortunately, LiQing's wishful thinking is far from what QiYu has in mind. He throws that overcoat that LiQing meticulously dressed in with and tells his attendants that he shall not go to court that day. There is another place that he'd like to go to. Just when you thought that he has changed, he decides to play cookie. It has been 3 days since LiQing's visit to the hospital. QiYu has been going to court on his own, and everything seems well. An official came to Qilin Mansion, delivering a message from the emperor. It is a summon for LiQing to immediately visit the palace. LiQing accepts the summon and asks what it is about. The official knows very little as to what the emperor wanted from LiQing, but shares that it may have something to do with the emperor scolding the prince that very morning. The official warns him to be careful. LiQing cannot think of anything that may anger the emperor and thanked the official for delivering the message. Shavati handed a silver tael to the official, which the official tried to decline. LiQing tells him to accept it, as the man has been working really hard, and to use the trinket to treat himself to a bowl of soup. So LiQing is a generous tipper. The official thanked him for his generosity. LiQing asks him to wait as he changes to clothes appropriate for the occasion. LiQing enters the palace escorted by the official. He was then ushered to the emperor's private office. The emperor sits behind his desk on a raised platform, while QiYu stands close to him on the steps. LiQing bows to the emperor to show respect. The emperor asks him if he knows what he did wrong. However, LiQing draws up a blank as he has no idea what is going on. He tells the emperor that he has been ill since his wedding. Thinking that the emperor is referring to the fact that he never paid his respect to his in-laws, as is customary for a bride that enters a new family, LiQing explains that he did not come to avoid spreading his illness. The emperor tells him that he is not accusing LiQing of not doing his duties. He explains that the crown prince has not attended the morning court sessions for 3 days in a row and asks LiQing if he knows about it. LiQing sweat bullets while he sneaks a peek at QiYu. LiQing would see him off every morning, but it turns out that QiYu has been skipping the sessions like an errant child. LiQing admits that he is unaware of the prince's activities. The emperor angrily tells him that the prince has been spending his time at the military camp to party and drink himself to stupor. He would draw his sword to challenge the soldiers, causing a ruckus. QiYu interjected that he spent his time with the soldiers during the years at military camp. It is not unusual for him to visit the camp, and he is not a child that needs to tell LiQing everything he does. LiQing realizes that no one would dare tell on QiYu, as all servants at Qilin Mansion work for him. While LiQing may be the crown princess, he does not have any power over the servants. Jun Xuanxiao tells QiYu off, angry at his son's petulance. We all know where he got that from. The emperor scolds LiQing. He insists that as LiQing is now the crown princess, it is his duty to make sure that the prince attends the morning court sessions and strays away from trouble. He should know where the prince is at all times. QiYu is highly anticipating that LiQing would realize what he just got into and throw in the towel. He wants LiQing to finally give up and offer to divorce him. But LiQing is tougher than that. Instead of giving up, he bows to the emperor and promised to be more diligent in his duties. Realizing that QiYu's actions were not out of care for him, LiQing pressed his lips together in disappointment. QiYu took LiQing's illness as a chance to get away from him. QiYu and LiQing returned to Qilin Mansion. Instead of talking it out, QiYu gave LiQing the silent treatment and put in every effort to avoid him. Meanwhile, LiQing continued to drink bitter medicine every day. While drinking a bowl of the bitter concoction, Xiao Di reminded him that Qi Mao instructed LiQing to eat a balanced diet. LiQing took the time apart from QiYu to focus more on his well-being. LiQing strolls to the gardens and found the servants in perfect assembly. He sees QiYu's carriage preparing to leave, and he wonders when QiYu returned. He has not seen hide nor hair of his husband. At a distance, he sees Hu Nuer standing beside QiYu, smugly waving at him as if he is gesturing to a close friend to come closer. LiQing approaches the two and asks if QiYu is also going. In the book, LiQing asks if Hu Nuer is also going. The Jing Empire called all its vassals and representatives of other countries to the capital to celebrate in a grand banquet. The event's purpose is to display the might and richness of the Jing Empire to its surrounding nations, brokering lasting peace and strengthening its connection to allied nations. As Emperor Jun Xuanxiao's only heir, it is inappropriate for QiYu to bring his slave along. Hu Nuer happily explains that it excites him to see many nations coming together, and QiYu promised to bring him to the banquet. Hu Nuer would sometimes address QiYu as father or sometimes grandfather. It's weird, but I guess it's no different from calling your partner daddy. He innocently asks if LiQing is unhappy that he is tagging along. LiQing has no say in the matter. He took his time on how to carefully reason with QiYu. Gathering his bearings, he starts to lightly explain to QiYu how inappropriate it is to bring Hu Nuer to this kind of event. To which QiYu pointed out that it is not LiQing's place to tell him off. Not only is he embarrassing LiQing by bringing his side chick, he's also rubbing it in on the other nations' faces that the Jing Empire is cruel to those they conquered. Hu Nuer is a prince from the eastern regions, and showing him off as a slave may not be good for brokering peace. It's just not in good taste. LiQing watches QiYu and Hu Nuer climb up the large carriage in front of him. He tells himself that he must tread carefully for QiYu's sake, The emperor's request that he take charge of QiYu's well-being and reputation bears heavy on him. He must take control of the situation. Fearing that it may have an effect on others, it's really difficult if you're in charge of someone who's so bullheaded. The tidy hall is filled with guests basking in the merry atmosphere. Exotic dancers and talented musicians entertain the guests. An array of decadent dishes is served to all the guests. LiQing sits on QiYu's right while Hu Nu'er sits on the left. As is customary for the wife, LiQing is about to offer to pour QiYu his wine, but QiYu beats him to eat by asking Hu Nu'er to pour him his drink. Hu Nu'er delightfully granted his request. Simpering, Hu Nu'er thanks QiYu for allowing him to join in the festivities. QiYu did not respond and only looked at him sharply. Hu Nu'er quivered and sweated bullets at QiYu's reprimanding look. LiQing sighs as he watches QiYu down his drink. LiQing is not an avid drinker, and he dislikes the taste of alcohol. He coughs when the alcohol reaches his throat. From across the hall, a pair of eyes never left its gaze on him. It's none other than the Prince of Luolan, Pei Xing-su. LiQing's sweat drops as he wonders why the other man keeps looking at him. He looks at LiQing like he wants to eat him. LiQing is taken aback when Pei Xing-su goofily waves at him in greeting. I love Chibi Pei. He can switch from the tall, dark, mysterious type to goofy, cute. What are you up to type? LiQing sits there in confusion while Pei is just straight up crushing on him. Pei congratulated QiYu for being so lucky that a marvelous beauty sits beside him in this banquet. He raises a cup of wine to toast to QiYu's good fortune. QiYu looks at him surprised. He reaches for his own cup, but instead of politely accepting Pei's compliment, QiYu grabs Hu Nu'er's face to show him off to Pei Xing-su. He tells Pei Xing-su to marvel at Hu Nu'er's beauty, which is rare in the eastern parts. Pei Xing-su agrees that QiYu is indeed very fortunate. Pei Xing-su drinks while smirking. He thinks to himself that Hu Nu'er's looks pale from LiQing's elegant and striking beauty. When he complimented QiYu, he was referring to LiQing. He finds QiYu's taste in man to be disappointing as LiQing is far more superior than Hu Nu'er. Watching LiQing being ignored in the sidelines is a sad sight for Pei Xing-su. QiYu notices that Pei Xing-su keeps looking their way. As if flexing a shiny toy, he tells Pei Xing-su that Hu Nu'er is not only beautiful, but is also skilled at dancing. He also mastered the dances of the western regions. At the shock of the guests at the banquet, he orders Hu Nu'er to dance in front of everyone. Hu Nu'er pales. He sweats bullets and tries to reason with QiYu, asking him to reconsider. He tells him that he only belongs to QiYu and would not dance for other people. Poor Hu Nu'er. QiYu does not care that he is humiliating Hu Nu'er. Making a former prince dance like a harlot in front of the other royals is just embarrassing. Annoyed at being told no, QiYu repeated his order for Hu Nu'er to dance, anger lacing his voice. Taking pity, LiQing tells QiYu that his request to make Hu Nu'er dance is not acceptable behavior for a prince. As a representative of the Jing Empire, he should not let pride get the better of him. LiQing rightfully observed that others may take pleasure at seeing the Prince of Yu dance for them to feel powerful and to show off. However, such action will be looked down upon. They may pretend to congratulate QiYu, but the childishness of the act is not lost on them. LiQing throws a glance at the emperor and observes that Jun Xuanxiao must be seething, although he has yet to reprimand his son. LiQing fears that the emperor might punish them later. QiYu looks at him sharply. He challenges LiQing that if he does not want Hu Nu'er to dance, then LiQing should dance in his place. Appalled at QiYu's threat, LiQing could only sit there shocked. QiYu orders Hu Nu'er a third time, and the prince-turned-slave has no other choice but to obey. He stands on shaking knees, swallows his humiliation, and dances to the beat of the music. LiQing can tell that the guests are only pretending to admire QiYu. Deep down they are mocking him for lacking class and not understanding etiquette. The emperor decided to draw the attention of Pei Xing-su. As the Prince of Luolan is the same age as QiYu, he encourages them to be friends. Pei Xing-su bowed respectfully and tells the emperor that he admires QiYu for being talented at both martial arts and literature. He might be prince, but the difference between their stations is vast as Luolan is not as rich as Dajing. Befriending the crown prince of Dajing will be very fortunate for him. QiYu hates people who bond together for benefits. He insists that in order to make a nation as strong as Dajing, a country must have a strong army to avoid other countries from conquering them. He believes that having connections will not result in winning over the world. Tension arises in the hall. Yun the emperor stills in his seat. The purpose of the banquet is to gain allies through diplomacy. with the prince announcing that words and connections are useless, and military might is the way to go. He's practically telling the other nations that all this talk is pointless. LiQing saves the day by diplomatically rewording Jun QiYu's words. He made it seem that QiYu is simply pointing out that having a strong military defense is the minimum requirement in making the nation strong. However, everyone should work towards keeping the people content, happy, and secure. Pei Xingsu brings up a question to the crown prince. He explains that although the Western Plains covers a large land, geographically speaking, their resources are scarce as they are mostly deserts. He asks what solution they can come up with to make sure that their people are well-fed and live abundantly. Knowing that QiYu can't answer the question, LiQing took it upon himself to answer on his behalf. LiQing eloquently pointed out that the country must determine where their strength lies and find ways to compensate for their weakness. He made it appear as if it was QiYu's idea. As Luolan is in an advantageous location between Dajing and other nations, if Luolan invests on trade routes between the countries, it would benefit Luolan greatly. I think LiQing means charging for toll fees and making Luolan a hotspot for exchanging goods. Luolan can also make use of their precious stones and spices to exchange for basic needs like food and medicine. Pei Xingsu thanks him sincerely for his advice. He admits that his main purpose in visiting Dajing is to create an alliance and open up trade between the countries. Hearing LiQing speak on behalf of the crown prince makes it clear that Dajing is open to such talks. Pei Xingsu smiles in admiration for LiQing. He is impressed by LiQing's eloquence and his diplomatic way of implying that Dajing's conquering days are over and is open to creating allies for lasting peace. He is glad that Dajing's interest aligns with Luolan's. The emperor did not hide his appreciation of LiQing's eloquence. He complimented Songqing, who is now minister and raising a wonderful son. He is happy for choosing LiQing as QiYu's study assistant. Pei Xingsu silently rejoiced. He finally learned his crush's name. He savored the name in his head, keeping it in mind. LiQing took a well-deserved drink after diffusing the situation. He may have done a good job at making Dajing look good, but QiYu is unlikely to appreciate it. QiYu pointed out that LiQing seems to be in better health. QiYu accused LiQing of finding Qili Mansion not big enough as a stage to show off on and ordered him to go home as his opinion is not welcome. With shaking hands, LiQing swallows his tears and puts down the bowl he's been sipping. Seeing the silver lining of QiYu's dismissal, he excused himself, choosing to leave rather than face further humiliation and neglect. LiQing leaves the banquet hall, leaving behind QiYu to enjoy the festivities without him. After taking his leave, LiQing rounds a corner outside the banquet hall. He halts in his steps at hearing someone call his name. He recognizes the voice of Pei Xingsu and decides to walk faster. He cannot fathom why the Prince of Luolan would follow him. But alas, the Prince of Luolan is able to outwalk him and blocks his path, confirming that his name is Song LiQing. LiQing ignores him and tries to walk around him to get away. Pei Xingsu asks if LiQing has visited a doctor. He correctly assumes that LiQing's illness is blood exhaustion. In other references, LiQing is suffering from anemia. Turning towards him, LiQing asks how he knows. Plucking a branch from a nearby plant, Pei Xingsu points the sharp end of the branch against his arm. He tells LiQing that he recognized the symptoms and told LiQing to watch closely. Pushing in the pointed end of the branch against his skin, Pei Xingsu shows LiQing the red oozing out from the wound. LiQing understood. Pei Xingsu pointed out that they suffer from the same ailment. This is the weirdest show and tell. He's probably just glad to meet someone who can fully understand his sufferings. He tells LiQing that he has been suffering from the ailment for 2 years now. LiQing is surprised to hear this as blood exhaustion is a terminal disease and is incurable. So how can this prince live this long and look healthy? Pei Xingsu admits that he is not yet cured from the ailment. He is lucky to have a father who exhausted all resources to find a cure for him. Alas, their search finally bore fruit when they discovered a cure called blood stench from the desert. With this cure, Pei Xingsu is able to live this long. LiQing is astounded to hear that magical elixir such as a blood stench would exist. He asks Pei Xingsu how he can find the blood stench. Disappointingly, the Prince of Luolan answered that there are no more left. Luolan is a barren desert and they were only able to find one. He reveals that he came to Dajing to study the medical books in the hopes of finding another cure for his illness. The bit of hope that aroused in LiQing was quickly dashed. Thanking the prince, LiQing told the prince that he shall deal with his illness on his own. He also asked the prince to stop tattling on him to QiYu and asks what he wants from him. Taken aback, Pei Xing-su is surprised at the accusation as he never tattled to QiYu about LiQing. Thinking that the other is lying, LiQing turns to leave but is stopped by Pei Xing-su. Putting a hand on LiQing's shoulder, the prince excitedly asks him to come back with him to Luolan. Surprised at this request, LiQing had to ask the prince to repeat himself. Pei Xing-su elaborates that he wants LiQing to leave QiYu. He leans down so that he is eye level with LiQing and urges him to follow him, promising that he shall never disappoint him. That's a strong claim to make. Bewildered at the prince's request, LiQing asks him how much he knows about him. They've only seen each other in passing a few times. He asks the prince if he knows who LiQing is. The prince insisted that it does not matter who LiQing is. What matters is that LiQing is the one he has been seeking. When LiQing answered his question at the banquet, Pei Xing-su was able to confirm that LiQing is the one. LiQing pushes him off, demanding that he takes back his words. He fears that people would hear their conversation and misunderstand what they are discussing. Should it fall on QiYu's ears, he might plot to kill Pei Xing-su. The Prince of Luolan explains that he is not going to compete with QiYu. He believes that LiQing must feel undervalued in his position as the prince's attendant. He also points out that LiQing has been thinner since the last time they met. He showers LiQing with praises, driving home that he sees LiQing as a valuable asset who has a good heart, a clear vision of the future, and ambition. He is far from a normal person. However, they degraded a wonderful talent like LiQing's to that of a mere attendant. Is he offering him a job? Laying out the benefits that LiQing will sow if he follows Pei Xing-su. The Prince of Luolan promises to respect, value, and love LiQing for the rest of his life. He smoothly turned the job offer into a love confession. This guy has guts. He even promises LiQing an official position at court should he want to. Pei Xing-su's offer is sincere. He can't believe that a prosperous nation like Dajing would disregard a talent like LiQing. If LiQing agrees to return with him to Luolan, then he would surely be a great help in making Luolan prosper. He expressed his disappointment at QiYu's blatant favor for someone like who knew her when he had a gem like LiQing beside him. LiQing had enough and tells Pei Xing-su to back off. He shall forget that such a proposal ever happened and demands that Pei Xing-su drops the idea. LiQing marvels at the man's frankness but also thinks that he is rather silly. Bowing down in farewell, LiQing gave the excuse that he must return home to drink his medicine. Pei Xing-su watches him leave, his heart heavy yet full of determination. That look tell me it's not over. A little while later, Pei Xing-su returns to the banquet. When it is time to present his gifts to the emperor, he stands at the bottom of the raised platform as the eunuch reads through the list of gifts. Going through the treasures, poultry, and 1,000 horses, the list finally ended and Pei Xing-su congratulated the Empire of Dajing for its success and wished the emperor a long life. The emperor noticed that there is more he wants to say and like an indulging uncle asks him to spill it out. Prince Luolan kneels down as he reveals that he has more requests and hopes that the emperor will grant it. Emperor Jun Xuanxiao encouraged him to talk. Prince Luolan explains that it is a certain someone that he wants and that the emperor and crown prince can grant it. No, don't do it. QiYu is surprised that his name is mentioned. Intrigued, Emperor Jun Xuanxiao asks if there is beauty that caught Pei Xing-su's heart that he made a request from the emperor. In the book, Jun Xuanxiao jokingly told Pei Xing-su that he does not have a princess to give him. Pei Xing-su explains that he is not going to ask for a princess or someone of noble birth, but what he wants is the 7th-ranked attendant who left the banquet early. He wants Song LiQing. He did it. Unable to restrain his anger, QiYu grabs a bowl made of porcelain and throws it on the floor. This is the best chance to get rid of LiQing like you've always wanted. So why are you having a tantrum now? Silence envelops the banquet hall as they watch the Prince of Luolan await the emperor's answer. Experienced at keeping himself calm, Emperor Jun Xuanxiao asks what Pei Xing-su wants from Song LiQing. The emperor may look calm, but deep down he feels agitated. He glances at his angered son standing with his hands fisted tightly. Pei Xing-su confessed that he fell in love with LiQing the moment he laid his eyes on him. He admires LiQing's talents and looks. He promises to take care of him as he knows that he is a valued member of the imperial court and QiYu's attendant. Begging on his knees for the emperor to grant him a marriage with LiQing, he promises to build strong ties between Luolan and Dajing. The emperor takes it in stride and carefully explains that he already married off Song LiQing, and even jokingly tells Pei Xing-su that he came too late. This is news to Pei Xing-su. he is not aware that Song LiQing is already married. A eunuch explains that Song LiQing is not only the prince's attendant, but he is also the crown princess of Dajing. Not only that, it is the emperor himself who imposed the marriage. So, Pei Xingsu did ask for a princess's hand. Pei Xingsu's heart stops after hearing this. He turns towards the eunuchs who attended him and demands to know why no one ever told him. Upon looking at their sheepish expression, Pei Xingsu realized that as QiYu does not appreciate his marriage to LiQing, the imperial court kept LiQing's position a secret from the attending representatives. It dawns on Pei Xingsu that it is too late to save LiQing from this fate, and realizes that his impulsiveness would only make things more difficult for LiQing. At Qilin Mansion, LiQing prepares QiYu's sleeping robes and some snacks for him to enjoy when he comes back from the banquet. Xiao Di scolds him for doing her job, and laments that she will have no work if LiQing continues to do her work. LiQing waves her off, citing that he has nothing to occupy his time with. Xiao Di complains that the crown prince is so mean to her master for ordering LiQing to leave the banquet early. However, instead of being angry at the prince, LiQing still treats him well. LiQing notices a string peeking out from the pile of clothes and pulls at it. A charm attached to a string of tassels comes out. It bounces on the floor and finally stops. The spherical charm splits in half to reveal a red brocade pouch. LiQing picks it up and finds a red jade inside. The red bloodstone has his and QiYu's name engraved on it. Xiao Di excitedly explains that QiYu returned one evening with this item. The brocade pouch is embroidered with mandarin ducks and twigs, which symbolizes love, devotion, and fidelity. She also explains that the red bloodstone takes the place of the red beans that's customary to the Chu people. QiYu's little father, Empress Shen Yu, is from the Chu clan, and it is tradition that you engrave the name of the one you love on a red bean. Xiao Di takes this as a sign that the crown prince does care for LiQing after all. LiQing asks why Xiao Di never told him about it. She explains that the crown prince must be saving the gift as a surprise for LiQing's birthday. LiQing is not deluded enough to think that Jun QiYu would ever do such sweet things for him. Looking at the red brocade pouch, he notices that there are fine hairs sticking out. Xiao Di explains that those are Jun QiYu's baby hair when he was 1 year old. The Chu people have a lot of customs, and they would keep a lock of their baby's hair. One day, when the child is old enough to get married, he would tie his hair with his spouse so that they will never part. Xiao Di encourages LiQing to do it. Song LiQing was adopted by General Song and his husband, Hong Lion, when he was 3 years old. He is sure that they did not have a lock of his hair when he was a baby. Xiao Di insists that it does not matter. Hair is hair, and LiQing should cut off a lock of his hair and tie it with QiYu's. She quickly scampered off to get scissors. LiQing does not want to do it, but as he does not want to offend QiYu and his in-laws. After cutting off his hair and tying it with QiYu's baby hair, LiQing puts the hair inside the red brocade pouch. Seeing the locks of hair tied together moved LiQing's heart, and he felt like crying. If only QiYu is not so opposed to their relationship, they would be a happy couple. When he looks up, he sees QiYu standing in front of him. The foreboding feeling settles on LiQing's stomach as he sees the look in QiYu's eyes. LiQing stares up at QiYu, but it is clear to see that the other is livid. LiQing frantically sat up, asking his spouse why he came back so soon. Xiao Di greets QiYu by bowing her head in respect, but QiYu only coldly tells her to leave. LiQing suspects that he must be mad because he touched his things. He quickly apologized and handed the red brocade pouch to QiYu. QiYu forgot about the pouch completely. It was a gift given to him by his little father with instructions to hand it to LiQing. The red brocade pouch adds to his ire, a reminder of this fate being forced on him. LiQing asks about the bloodstone and comments that their names were written on it. He tells QiYu that he tied their hairs together as tradition dictates. He asks if the contents of the brocade pouch were gifts for him. QiYu is not listening. All that's ringing in his head are Pei Xingsu's praises for LiQing and his brazen request to marry him. His jaw clenches at the thought. Unable to restrain his anger, he takes it out on LiQing and pushes him down on the couch. He vaguely asks when it happened. LiQing does not understand what's going on and can only look at him with a mix of surprise and fear. QiYu demands to know when LiQing had time to dally with Pei Xingsu. LiQing fearfully tells him that he does not know Pei Xingsu well. QiYu does not believe him and tightens his hand around his throat. QiYu is convinced that the two must have had an affair for a long time. Otherwise, why would Pei Xingsu ask the emperor to marry LiQing with the representatives of other countries bearing witness? If their relationship is not that deep, Why would Pei Xing Su go to that extent? LiQing shivers, not understanding how it came to this. With pure hatred, his voice laced with jealousy, he tells LiQing that Pei Xing Su even confessed that he fell in love with LiQing at first sight. LiQing can't believe it. To LiQing's relief, QiYu finally lets him go. Spitefully looking at LiQing from head to foot, QiYu concluded that Pei Xing Su must like LiQing, who looks sickly, submissive, and weak. He accuses LiQing of seducing Pei Xing Su with his silver tongue when he spoke at the banquet. QiYu accuses LiQing of throwing himself at any man. He had suspicion that something was going on between LiQing and Qi Mao. To QiYu, it shouldn't come as a surprise that LiQing is having an affair with another man. In the book, QiYu even insulted LiQing by saying that he is no different from his little father, Hong Lian, who was known for being promiscuous. LiQing, who loved his adopted father so much, can't stand to hear QiYu badmouth his father, something that is a sore spot for him, as QiYu used to defend him from other bullies who does the same. LiQing has had enough and tells QiYu to stop. LiQing looks at QiYu and asks how far QiYu would go to embarrass LiQing. If he thinks so little of LiQing, QiYu shouldn't be mad if LiQing did have an affair with Pei Xing Su. If Pei Xing Su marries LiQing and takes him back to Luolan, it would solve QiYu's problems. He'd been demanding that LiQing divorce him. He should be happy that LiQing will be out of his hair, which is what he's always wanted. At the thought of Pei Xing Su taking LiQing away, QiYu snarls and roars that he will not allow it. So what exactly do you want? Make up your mind, dude. LiQing just can't understand him. He lets out a long sigh at seeing QiYu so angry. QiYu's eyebrows are drawn together as he asks if LiQing has been waiting for the chance to run away with Pei Xing Su. For some reason, QiYu is getting more and more angry. LiQing does not want to continue talking as he knows that QiYu won't believe whatever he says. He looks straight at QiYu and asks what makes him so angry when he claims to be disgusted by LiQing. QiYu has no answer as he does not understand why he is so mad. Taken aback by the question, he looks at LiQing as he ponders on what sets him off. He can see in LiQing's eyes what the other is thinking. LiQing thinks he cares. QiYu can't wrap his mind around the possibility of caring for LiQing when he despises him so much. He grits his teeth and throws all his anger in a single punch. Thankfully, he only connects with the wall besides LiQing. The crown princess is stunned that QiYu would actually hit him. He looks up at him in fear, while QiYu coldly tells him to not get ahead of himself. QiYu reminds LiQing that he only belongs to him. He won't allow others to trample his pride by touching what belongs to him. LiQing is disheartened at the realization that QiYu only sees him as an object to possess, an accessory to boost his ego. LiQing's silence is getting to QiYu. LiQing lets out a tired sigh, which angers QiYu even more. QiYu pulls his hand out of the wall and grabs LiQing's head. Catching LiQing's lips, he pushes him down. LiQing couldn't manage to get away. When QiYu finally lets him go to breathe, LiQing shakes in fear as QiYu demands to know if he ever did any extracurricular activities with Pei Xing Su. He needs to know that LiQing has not betrayed him. Angered by QiYu's baseless accusations, LiQing curses at him. LiQing's look only added fuel to QiYu's anger, and he continued to kiss LiQing. In the heat of the moment, LiQing slaps QiYu to protect himself, while insisting that he does not know Pei Xing Su well, and nothing between him and Pei Xing Su has ever occurred. When LiQing thought he'd escaped, a hand grabs his arm. QiYu pulls him to his chest. LiQing's strength is no match to him. LiQing's denial makes him blind with anger, not believing that anything happened between the two. LiQing tries to get away, but QiYu won't let him. Lead sinks in LiQing's stomach as QiYu whispers his desires. Lifting LiQing up to his shoulder, QiYu walks towards their bed and throws LiQing down. He accuses LiQing of denying him because of Pei Xing Su. LiQing simply tells him that he's not in the mood, but QiYu is insistent. As he removes LiQing's garments, QiYu tells him that he should be grateful for his attention. The only way that LiQing can escape QiYu is to no longer belong to him. Throughout the night, LiQing endures the pain, his body littered with marks. QiYu appears satisfied. It reminds him of the seals that he stamped on LiQing when they were children. Reveling at the mere thought of possessing LiQing once more, QiYu gleefully whispers to LiQing's ears that as long as they are married, he will own him. Their activity lasted through the night, with QiYu making sure that LiQing understood his lesson. The activity left LiQing weak and in pain. He has been losing a lot of fluid. The darkness hides the fact that LiQing is on the verge of dying. QiYu wakes up after a satisfying sleep. Noticing that he slept past the usual time, he blames LiQing for not waking him up. Fear grips his chest at the sight of red stains on their sheets. He shakes LiQing to wakefulness, but the other is unresponsive. QiYu knows that he'd been rough with LiQing last night, but there's no way that he'd done enough damage to make LiQing hurt so much. LiQing's complexion is not good. The marks of last night's activities litter his neck, chest, and collarbone. QiYu panics after having a good look at his husband. He screams for the servants to call for the imperial doctor. When the doctors arrive, QiYu demands that they check LiQing right away. Mao strides over to LiQing's bed and notices the red marks on his skin. Mao can already guess what happened. He quickly rummaged through his chest of medicine and found the red pills that will help LiQing. He knows that LiQing is ill from blood exhaustion and correctly assumes that the prince did a number on LiQing to make him like this. He slips the round pill between LiQing's lips and raises his head to help him drink water to help the pill go down. LiQing coughs and spits the pill out. QiYu berates Mao for not being able to make LiQing take the medicine. Grating his teeth, Mao explains that LiQing can't take the medicine while unconscious. Unable to comprehend what's going on, QiYu demands to know what's going on with LiQing. Mao looks at him sternly, rightfully telling him off for being the cause of LiQing's current condition. QiYu defends himself by saying that he was only a bit rough on LiQing. You might want to reconsider what a bit means. QiYu remembers all the things he did to LiQing last night and clenches his teeth in a mixture of guilt and anger. Mao observes his friend's condition and takes pity on his current state. It's only been a while since LiQing lived at Qilin Mansion, but his body has deteriorated significantly. He wonders if QiYu treats him inhumanly. QiYu tells Mao that he knows of his secret meeting with LiQing and accuses him of having feelings for LiQing. Mao vehemently denied the accusations, insisting that he and LiQing are only friends. He also pointed out that QiYu's accusations at this time are unnecessary when LiQing is on the verge of dying. This shocks QiYu. Not wanting to believe him, he pushes Mao away and scampers towards LiQing's bed. He picks up the red pill and forces it down LiQing's throat. Against Mao's protests, QiYu demands for water, intent on making LiQing swallow the pill. The water dribbles down LiQing's jaw. QiYu stops to observe LiQing and sees that LiQing is breaking out in cold sweat. QiYu abruptly stands up and rushes towards Mao's chest of medicine, rummaging through the drawers, finding a cure. Mao stops him, telling him that at this point, he killed LiQing. QiYu finally snaps at hearing Mao's words. He clenches his fist, acknowledging his hopelessness, and asks Mao what to do. At this point, QiYu realized that he had no idea how to save a life. Growing up in the borders, he only learned how to slay Dajing's enemies. LiQing groans, which draws his attention. He comes closer to the bed, wanting to know what LiQing is saying. The crown princess murmurs QiYu's name in his sleep, wishing to be let go. A thorn pricks his heart, but he ignores it. He touches LiQing's hand and asks no one in particular why they are cold. Lifting LiQing up to a sitting position, he tells him that he can't die. Hugging him close, his heart full of regret, he demands that he wakes up. But his demands are for naught, as LiQing stays unconscious, his mind in darkness. QiYu hugs him closer, promising to be gentler with him. He turns to the doctors, offering a reward to anyone who can cure him. He threatens to punish all of them if LiQing were to die. Without any choice on the matter, the doctors bowed in agreement. QiYu seethed, dissatisfied with the doctors who attended LiQing. It's been a full day, yet none of them are able to diagnose what is ailing his husband. The feeling of hopelessness eats at him. He can do nothing but worry. Shavadi interrupts his thoughts, announcing that the Prince of Lu Olan came to visit. QiYu can't believe that the man has the audacity to come to his home. Shavadi explains that the Prince of Lu Olan heard of LiQing's condition and claims to have a cure. QiYu stills at hearing this. Clinging to any hope he can grasp, QiYu allows Pei Xing-su to enter his home. If not for LiQing's condition, never in a million years would he allow this man near LiQing. Pei Xing-su observes LiQing and is surprised that he would look so weak and he was fine the day before. How could he be on the verge of death after a single night? Impatiently, QiYu demands to know if Pei Xing-su has the cure. Like a lover sitting beside his beloved's deathbed, Pei Xing-su bows his head. QiYu looks down on Pei Xing-su like some villain. Surprised, he had no time to dodge when a fist flew at him. Hit him good. Pei Xing-su curses him, demanding to know what torture LiQing had to go through in QiYu's hands, enduring his swollen cheek. QiYu stands silently, even when Pei Xing-su poses to attack a second time. Gathering his bearings, QiYu grabs Pei Xing-su's wrist. He tells Pei Xing-su that if he can save LiQing, he'd allow him to punch him. If not, he'll be sure to fight back. Pei Xing-su is not as strong as QiYu, who grew up in the garrisons waging war against Da Jing's enemies. He is no match for QiYu's strength. The first punch was a lucky strike. Pei Xing-su knows of QiYu's reputation and how cruel he can be. Not only did he kill many people and enslave a prince of the Yili royal family, he even tortures his dear husband. QiYu does not care what he thinks and demands that he save LiQing. Pei Xing-su does not need to be told twice. Pulling his hand away from QiYu's grasp, he vows to save LiQing. As much as Pei Xing-su wants to vent his anger, fighting with QiYu is pointless. Insulted that Pei Xing-su had the gall to be angry at him, QiYu tells him that it was he who should be mad for asking LiQing's hand in marriage in front of the world's envoys. It is QiYu who has a beef to settle with him. Pei Xing-su claims that he has the right to be angry. First, he is jealous of QiYu for being so lucky to marry LiQing. Second, he is mad at him for being blind and not able to appreciate the gem he had been gifted with. Lastly, he is angry that QiYu does not uphold the responsibilities of a married man and hurts his husband. QiYu has no words to defend himself with. He can only clench his fist as Pei Xing-su rants at him. Finally, having said his piece, Pei Xing-su concluded that QiYu does not deserve LiQing. He turns to LiQing, watching his face. QiYu tells him that LiQing is his, and Pei Xing-su has no right to interfere in the matters regarding their marriage. He tells Pei Xing-su to leave if he only came to Qilin Mansion to rant. Pei Xing-su confidently answers that there is a way to save LiQing, but demands that he should be left alone with LiQing when administering the treatment. QiYu looks at him incredulously. He thinks that Pei Xing-su must have nefarious intentions to LiQing, but Pei Xing-su is unbendable. He will only save LiQing under the condition that they are left alone together. Otherwise, LiQing will die. QiYu looks at LiQing, watching his husband suffering on the bed. There is no other choice. Threatening to end Pei Xing-su and destroying his country if he fails to save LiQing. QiYu leaves him alone to do what needs to be done. All he did was dole out threats to the medical staff and those who wanted to save LiQing. Not really helpful. QiYu. Pei Xing-su mocks QiYu for lacking this kind of protectiveness when it was needed. What right does QiYu have to act like a caring husband when it is too late? QiYu leaves the room, his eyes closed in regret. When QiYu left, Pei Xing-su stood in LiQing's room in silence. Outside, QiYu stands facing the garden, contemplating if he had gone too far this time. From behind, a playful voice comforts him. It is Hu Nuer inviting him to his room and Xing Lizad to have a meal together. QiYu explains that he must stand guard as he is worried that Pei Xing-su might do something bad to LiQing. Hu Nuer tries to convince him that the guards won't let Pei Xing-su do anything to LiQing. He convinces QiYu that his health is far more important and that he must rest. Compromising, Hu Nuer offers to message him to make him feel relaxed. Ridden with guilt, QiYu asks Hu Nuer if he treated LiQing so cruelly. Hu Nuer takes his side and angrily states that anyone who accuses QiYu of such things should be punished. As the future emperor of Da Jing, he is above all others, and such words are slander. With these words of flattery, Hu Nuer is able to get to QiYu's head. Driving his point, he praises QiYu for his adventures in the western regions and all the things he did to protect his country. However, it is LiQing who does not understand QiYu's sacrifices. Under the pretense that it is not his nature to talk ill about people, Hu Nuer criticizes LiQing for not doing a good job of managing QiYu's reputation. He accuses LiQing of making himself look good while pushing QiYu's name to the mud. As QiYu's slave, he pretends to be aggrieved. Hu Nuer even goes so far as accusing LiQing of pretending to be sick to gain QiYu's sympathy, a strategy written in the book, The Art of War. It's a must-read. He warns QiYu to tread lightly and not fall for LiQing's traps. Hu Nuer's words angers QiYu, and he throws off the food prepared for him. The slave asks him what's wrong. QiYu looks at him coldly and asks if Hu Nuer has forgotten his place. Hu Nuer tries to calm QiYu by insisting that he is genuinely upset for him. He claims that he can't help but feel indignant for him. Hu Nuer wonders why QiYu suddenly started to care for LiQing. QiYu dismisses him, his steps leading back to LiQing's courtyard. Inside Pei Xing-su's seethas, he expected QiYu to leave right away. Surprisingly, he decides to stick around outside while Pei Xing-su tends to LiQing. Pei Xing-su wants to make LiQing give up on QiYu so that it will be easier for him to take him back to Lu Olan and treat him. As someone who suffers the same ailment as LiQing, he knows that the pill created from the blood cistinge will help LiQing leave. It is the only reason why Pei Xing-su has lived this long. The pills must be taken yearly to extend one's life. Pei Xing-su only has 3 pills in his possession. He recites a silent prayer to his father, begging for forgiveness. If the pills can save LiQing, then Pei Xing-su will have no regrets. Pei Xing-su stayed at LiQing's bedside until it got dark, prompting QiYu to enter the bedroom to kick him out. QiYu snarkily asks the Prince of Lu Olan how long he plans to loiter in Qilin Mansion. He glances at LiQing and is relieved to see that his complexion is a lot better than before. Knowing he's not wanted, Pei Xing-su stands up to deny QiYu the chance of chasing him away. QiYu asks about the medicine Pei Xing-su used and demands to know why LiQing is still unconscious. Pei Xing-su snaps at him that there is no such thing as a medicine that would miraculously make you feel better after taking one. What he means is that recovery takes time, and QiYu is acting like an impatient brat. Although annoyed, QiYu has nothing to say to Pei Xing-su. Pei Xing-su leaves in a sour mood, promising to return to see LiQing again the next day. He looks back to QiYu, telling him that LiQing is still not cured. His life still hangs in balance between life and death. If QiYu has any care at all, he must be vigilant in observing LiQing's condition. Angered at being told what to do, QiYu challenges Pei Xing-su's right to tell him off. LiQing is his crowned princess. It is only right for Pei Xing-su to back off. Pei Xing-su grits his teeth, stomping off as he leaves. QiYu tells Xiao Di to gather more servants to attend to LiQing. They can all take turns in watching LiQing throughout the night and day. He also tells her to follow the imperial doctor's orders. Making the right call, he tells her to alert the people at Tai Hospital should something happen to LiQing. He specifically told her to call Qi Mao, setting his jealousy aside. Xiao Di obediently follows his orders, thinking that it would make her master happy. Xiao Di asks if QiYu would stay. QiYu gets annoyed when he is told what to do and tells Xiao Di that there is nothing for him to do. Making him stay will not make LiQing heal faster. Xiao Di reasons that she believes that when LiQing hears his voice, LiQing might wake up. Such things have happened before. QiYu does not believe such nonsense. He takes a glance at LiQing. With his conscience tugging at him, QiYu changes his mind. He walks over to LiQing's bed and arranges his blanket neatly on top of him. He can only wish that nothing happens to LiQing. In the book, he leaves to have fun with who knew her. For the next 3 days, Pei Xing-su continues to visit LiQing. The crown princess stays unconscious the whole time. Pei Xing-su sits LiQing up and guides the last of the blood cistinge pill to his lips. If this does not save LiQing, then nothing will. Pei Xing-su worries that now that there are no more pills left, there is little chance that they will find a blood cistinge plant in time to save him. Fear grips his heart at the thought of LiQing dying. As he turns to leave, LiQing moves and a moan escapes from his lips. He slowly opens his eyes, groaning. LiQing has slept for so long, but even with his eyes open, he can only see darkness. He asks Pei Xing-su if it is nighttime. Pei Xing-su thinks that LiQing's question is strange. It is daytime, but LiQing thinks it's during the night. Sensing the presence of another person in the room, LiQing turns to him, mistaking him for QiYu. The Prince of Lu Olan tells LiQing that it is him, Pei Xing-su. LiQing's heart is in a panic. He asks Pei Xing-su what he is doing at Qilin Mansion. He worries that QiYu will hear about it. Pei Xing-su explains that LiQing has been unconscious for days and the doctors were unable to cure him. He tells him that they used his remaining blood cistinge pills to save LiQing from the brink of death. LiQing clearly remembers that Pei Xing-su told him that they only got hold of one blood cistinge plant even after years of searching. He asks why Pei Xing-su would give up something so precious and give it to LiQing. There was only a limited supply and Pei Xing-su also needed it to survive. LiQing, marry this guy instead. If you don't, I will. Pei Xing-su admitted that there were a total of 9 pills and he has already consumed 6 of those. He had 3 pills left, which are thankfully enough to save LiQing. Pei Xing-su blames himself for what happened to LiQing. If it were not for his impulsive request at the banquet, QiYu would not have taken out his anger on LiQing. LiQing worriedly asks him why he did it. The pills are extremely crucial in keeping Pei Xing-su alive. Why would he give it up to save someone unrelated to him? Giving the pills to LiQing would result in his death. Pei Xing-su brazenly told him that 3 years means nothing. Those pills could extend his life for 3 years, but since he gave it to LiQing, Pei Xing can spend a year of his life with LiQing. In Pei Xingsu's eyes, he did not lose 3 years, but rather he gained a year happily knowing that LiQing is alive. He tells LiQing that it no longer matters. What's done is done. It's no use discussing what already happened. LiQing bows in shame. He asks Pei Xingsu what he wants from him. If it is in his power, he would gladly give them to Pei Xingsu. Pei Xingsu teases him that saving one's life is usually repaid by one's body. You can also pay with a horse or an ox. Pei Xingsu makes it clear that he does not want anything in return. Now that he has given 3 years of his life to LiQing, his only wish is for him to have a good life and try to stay away from things that hurt him. At the thought of hurtful things, Pei Xingsu realizes that he does not know where QiYu is at that moment. LiQing berates himself for even hoping that QiYu would take care of him when he gets deathly sick. Even when he is at death's door, QiYu is nowhere to be seen. To be fair, he did stay a bit, just not enough. LiQing closes his eyes in disappointment. His heart cries for his pitiful situation. In order to protect his family, LiQing silently endures QiYu's cruel antics and humiliation. LiQing holds QiYu close to his heart as he has been infatuated with him when they were young. He holds hope that QiYu is the same as before, but he knows now that he should acknowledge that he is a different person now. He must take off the filter and see QiYu as he is. Finally, you should see him as the cruel, sadistic piece of work that he is. LiQing's thoughts are interrupted by Pei Xingsu, who has been calling his name repeatedly. It is obvious to Pei Xingsu that LiQing's gaze is not directed at him. He correctly assumes that there is something wrong with LiQing's eyes. He asks LiQing if he is all right. He observes that LiQing is unable to focus on any object. LiQing explains that when he was young, he cried too much until his vision was blurry. He thinks that he must simply be having a relapse of a childhood illness. Pei Xingsu rightfully tells him that LiQing's condition is a big deal. LiQing assures him that he will be fine again in no time. He tells Pei Xingsu that he is better now and even pointed at Pei Xingsu's body parts to prove that he can see. It will take more than that to convince Pei Xingsu. So he asks again if LiQing is really okay. LiQing points at the table and asks if the food is for him. Pei Xingsu answered that they are indeed for LiQing. It is a healthy meal made by Qi Mao, cautioning LiQing to take it easy. He tells him not to force himself if he cannot eat yet. LiQing worries about his eyes. He did not want to worry Pei Xingsu, but his eyes went blind for a while before he started to see things clearly. He was able to see momentarily, but now he cannot see again. It's completely black. It may take him a while to regain his sight again. LiQing is a compassionate person and does not want to waste the efforts of those who serve him. Pei Xingsu can see through his heart. He observes that LiQing is someone who is selfless and puts others' needs before him. He asks that if he always cares for others, then how can he have space for himself in his own heart? Pei Xingsu offers to feed LiQing. He walks to the desk to get the tray of food. LiQing insisted that he could feed himself. Suddenly, the door is kicked open, and QiYu enters the room, demanding to know what they are doing. Grumpy enters the room. Upon seeing LiQing awake, QiYu is angered that no one has told him that LiQing has recovered. Pei Xingsu tells him to not be so loud as LiQing has not yet fully recovered. He scolds QiYu for not knowing how to take care of someone properly. Stomping towards the two, QiYu tells Pei Xingsu that it is not his place to care for LiQing. He demands to take the bowl from Pei Xingsu's hands so that he can feed LiQing himself. Securing the bowl of the nourishing meal, he tells Pei Xingsu to leave. Pei Xingsu does not argue and tells LiQing to have a good rest. LiQing thanked him for his kindness. QiYu thinks it is unfair of Pei Xingsu to say that he does not know how to take care of LiQing, when all Pei Xingsu did is to check up on LiQing from time to time. QiYu thinks bitterly that he has been caring for LiQing and stayed beside him most of the time. When the two of them are alone, QiYu breaks the silence by telling LiQing that he knows that all will be well. LiQing was just fine, so there's no way that he die a sudden death. When he looks at LiQing, a foreboding feeling creeps at him. There is something about LiQing that is different, but he cannot put a finger on what it is. What has changed?